Hey guys, here we go into the fifth and final round. This is the end of the fight, as everybody knows. And we're going to kind of break it down. And like someone said in the comments of the last video, this is the round that Triple G really starts to get serious. While I do think that Brooke was fighting very well for the style that... HBO owns the rights to the video. My use of this is protected under the Fair Use Act. For commentary, criticism, and educational purposes. Yeah, so what we're trying to do, and for those of you that are new to the channel, what we're trying to do is we're trying to look at the ways that, look at Golovkin's defense against punches, his rhythms, his timings, and the way that he sets up his punches. And we're going to kind of mesh that with the way that we analyze Canelo's style of attack and Canelo's defense and Canelo's timings and rhythms and patterns more appropriately, and figure out how we think that the fight is going to play out, and then pick a winner. You know, a lot of people are kind of think this fight is a toss-up. I don't know that any of my film study has, you know, necessarily made anyone, you know, choose who's going to win, but in my mind, like when I do my analysis for the fight, I have a very, very, very clear winner in my mind. But right now, I just want to get into the fifth and final round of this fight. And I'd like to apologize too. I had some momentum going with doing these film studies, but Wednesday night I had to do homework for my class, but my shoulder was acting up, so I wound up getting a little high. And then instead of doing my homework, I wound up spending 5 hours looking at Game of Thrones fan theories on YouTube, and I just didn't get anything done, so I had to do it last night. So I'm back now doing round 5. We're going to get into it, and hopefully this weekend I can try and get some key to victory videos up for the fight and how I think that, you know, they're going to mesh up, and then do like a prediction video and go from there. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into this ring. And I chose this scene. This is the final round of them, and look at Brooke, old man Brooke, getting in there with his white eyebrows. But what I was gonna say is, Brooke has done a very good job of fighting Golovkin for the style that he's chose, and I think, you know, Golovkin kind of turns it up in this round, and it winds up being a little too much for Brooke to handle. So let's go ahead and get into it. So right away, what do we notice? Golovkin picking up on rhythms and patterns, right? And this is something that he does very well. He sees that Brooke gets on the line, and what does he do? Brooke's on the line, so he goes to catch a jab. You can barely see him go to parry it, right? And then he goes and shoots his own jab off of that rhythm. You know, he kind of gets countered by Brooke, and then Brooke does the smart thing. It's about time that he does this too. After he shoots that shot, he knows the right hand's coming, right? Because Golovkin, he has his own patterns, right? And a lot of his offense being built off of his shoot the jab, shuffle in, and duck under the counters, right? So he doesn't get hit with the right hand over the top. He doesn't get hit with the left hook. He's able to use his defense while punching. And while he has this like very predictable pattern for setting up his offense, right? It's a lot of so much of what he does when he's not controlling the distance between the two fighters, when he's not using his lead hand to probe and he's just using it to punch. He still has a phenomenal defense for this style of setting up his offense, right? And the reason that it's different than fighters like Errol Spence, right? Errol Spence has a very similar tactic, right? He flashes the lead hand, takes lead foot dominance, and then throws a left hand. But Errol Spence doesn't have any defense when he does it. You know, towards the end of the Brooke fight, he started ducking his head. He would duck under the hooks from Kell Brook, and then Kell Brook actually stopped throwing the hook, and he would actually just use it to control Errol Spence's head and try to push his head down instead of actually throwing it as a punch. But that was the only deviation that or defense that Errol Spence had in that. And that's why I prefer Golovkin's style, because as much part of craft as it is for Golovkin, right? And it's very common, very common pattern. He does get a lot of the static defenses for punches, right? Stopping the right hand from coming over the top, stopping it from hitting on his chin. You know, all but neutralizing the right hand for a counter for this. I mean, I guess you could throw like a right hand to the body on the outside, but also the left hook or even the jab. Like sometimes Brook has been successful, but most of the time Golovkin he can catch jabs with his right hand while he's jabbing, or keeping his glove in front of his face to block the hook, right? Getting his whole arm in the way. And that's what you call craft. He understands where the holes are in his game, and he shores them up, right? And that's something that you get from a very experienced fighter, something that I think Errol Spence could wind up detailing in his approach, in his setup of his offense. So in spite of the fact that it's very common and a very common and predictable pattern, Canelo also has Golovkin has a much more diverse set of offense that he sets up off of that punch, right? We talked about the right hand over the top that he tries to bait the jab with, right? He tries to bait the jab by stepping in with the jab, catching the jab, shooting a right hand over the top, shooting the right hand to the body, shooting the right hand as an uppercut, shooting a left hook off of it. But it's a very diverse set of offense that he has off of this one type of craft, this one little niche in the way that he sets up his punches. But anyway, Brook finally doing, probably what he should do and getting under the right hand and then clinching, and you never want to see that in a fight, right? But also, you don't want to get punched in the face even more. So I think that that's a good strategy from him, not allowing Golovkin to use that style of setup, noticing that he's setting his punches up and then just, taking all the setup away from him, right? Even though he might have gotten hit with that jab, I didn't even pay attention. No, it looks like he gets out of the way of it, but shoring it up, and this is something that I think would be very effective for Canelo, but Canelo doesn't clinch, right? So Canelo's, when Golovkin comes in and he starts shooting that jab and ducking and getting under the counters or blocking the counters or predicting the counters, Canelo, because of the fact that Canelo doesn't like to clinch and doesn't clinch ever, and we like that about him. That's why we like him as a fighter. That's why we like watching him, because it makes his fights exciting. He uses those very flashy defenses like that Mayweather style. But in this fight, it's really going to hurt him, the fact that he doesn't ever clinch and he doesn't ever try to control his opponents, because he's going to have to contend with whatever little trick that Golovkin is setting Canelo up for. It's going to cause Canelo to have to really predict what punch Golovkin shoots off of this jab very, very well. If he thinks it's an overhand right and it winds up being a right uppercut, he's going to get cracked with a huge shot. And that's going to be something that's very problematic for Canelo and the way that he's going to deal with Golovkin's setup, the setup of his punches. And this is a very basic style of offense for Canelo, or for Golovkin. He has other ways to set up his punches too that he uses in other fights. But coming in with the lead hook, and then this is really interesting too, right? Because usually when he comes in with the jab, right? And let's see if Brook thought it was going to be a jab too. So I do think he thought it might have been a jab at first. He gets his right glove out there, but he might just be pumping his jab. Oh, there you go. He thinks it's going to be a jab right there. He goes to catch it, right? And then realizes it's not. Great eyes from Brook. Really, really great eyes. I think that Golovkin tries to catch the jab sometimes too, but I don't think he's going to be able to read the punches as well as Brook. And that's one of the reasons why I continually point out how good Brook's eyes are. Because how many fighters have you ever seen go to catch the jab, and then look at his boxing technique too. Like, that's one thing that I really like about Brook, and I've really grown to appreciate doing film studies on him. He has phenomenal technique. I'm puzzled as fuck as to why he doesn't have more power. He's ripped, he's in great shape, and he has great punch technique. But he goes to catch the jab, and then when he turns away from the shot, look at how he transfers all his weight, right? Turns completely away from it. Beautiful beautiful technique. But getting back to Canelo, when he gets feinted or he gets pushed out of position, he'll usually put his arm all the way out. So I think that might be something that is a little one of those little traps, and this is also a trap that Canelo uses, right? Flashing that lead hand out there, right? Flying out there with a jab and stepping with it, fly out there with a jab and step with it, and then fly out with the left hook. So it'll be interesting to see how he deals with his own trap. You know, he didn't deal with it super well against Mayweather, so maybe he's made some adjustments. Being that that's, you know, basically Mayweather's trap. You know, I don't know that he invented it, you know, but for this generation of boxers, he's the one most prevalently tied to it. But I think that stuff like this, really tricky stuff like this, especially because Golovkin is such a big puncher, you really want to respect his punches. I think this is going to be something that is still going to be really effective against Canelo. Anyway, moving on. You know, Canelo and Golovkin not really setting his punches up yet. You know, not controlling, and that's one of the things that I want to talk about. You know, throughout the course of this film study, one of the reasons why Golovkin has been able to have success with this style of fighting, and this is very common in boxing, is that neither one of these fighters is really controlling the distance between them, right? And what I mean by that, if you guys watched Mayweather-McGregor, right? I know a lot of people thought that I probably shouldn't use this as an example because people are still so salty about that fight. But McGregor used his lead hand extremely well. He was able to make Mayweather have to kind of sell out in order to throw punches, right? And then he was able to slip those punches and throw counters. But by controlling the space between them, he was able to stop Mayweather from setting up any of his punches, right? He made Mayweather have to rely on his more of his speed and his timing rather than like actual boxing ability or boxing skills, right? And that's why it took him so long to kind of catch up to McGregor, because he had to get the timings and he had to get the rhythm right in order to catch him when he was rotating or when he was transferring his weight or pivoting or whatever he was doing. Fuck, what was I saying that? Oh, yes. But neither one of these two fighters are using their lead hand to control the other fighter, right? So it gives both of them this amazing opportunity to feint and probe and to slip and to do all the things necessary to set their punches up against the other fighter. The irony of this is that we saw him do it, Golovkin. We saw Golovkin do that so well against Danny Jacobs. So we do know that controlling the distance between the two fighters is something that he knows how to do with his lead hand, right? Control the distance, stop them from setting up their punches so that they can only rely on their traps and their countering, right? And I think that if Golovkin does decide to use his lead hand, and we'll talk about this more at the end of this video. Actually, yeah, I'm just going to talk about it more at the end of the video. I hope I remember. I'm a little high right now, so I might fucking not, but we'll talk about it again. Anyway, Golovkin comes in, and he starts getting a little more serious, right? Gives him a feint, right? And Brooke catches it like it's a real punch, and he walks him into a right hand to the body. But also, this is beautiful about Golovkin. One thing that people really don't pay attention to, because when you go to a boxing gym, and if I ever get to fucking do some more videos, you know, it's rained the last 2 weekends in my area, and the weekends are the only time that my friends have off that I can make my boxing training videos. But when you learn how to punch, you know, at a gym, a conventional gym, they tell you, oh, plant your feet, throw your hands, you know, whatever. And this is something that Golovkin does so well because he's able to transfer his weight to his left leg. Look at how all his weight is on his left leg. As he's transitioning his weight, he gets all the weight into his right hand, right? Because his body is swinging, getting that right hand into his punch. But then he's able to shift off there and close the distance, you know? Beautiful boxing. You know, you don't have to only do one of these little motions or one of these little movements when you transition your weight. The opportunity to add like 2 and 3 movements to transitioning your weight on top of just a punch is almost always present. And Golovkin takes advantage of it really well. But gives him a feint right here, boom, gets him to react. He turns away from the hand. He realizes it's a body shot and does his best to get out of the way of it, to block it. But then Golovkin shifts and is able to, you know, not catch him with that shot. I think Brooke has kind of figured out that that's coming. But after he throws that shot, Golovkin controls him. See how he gets his forearm on him, right? And he controls him. and then gets that left hand in there. Boom. Big shot, you know, partially blocked. And what does he do immediately after throwing that left hook? Controls him again, right? Keeps him there, feints a right hand, shoots a jab. You know, beautiful on the inside, and then throws a right hand. I don't think that right hand to the body lands. Looks like it might. It doesn't matter. Shifts again, throws the left hook, and he's got him out of position on the ropes, right? And that's all a function of him being able to control him and keep him out of position, you know, and keep him guessing which punches are coming by using the probes, by throwing those fake punches, right? They're feints, right? But he can still transition his weight while he's doing it to throw the next punch. And then able to just land punches. And again, beautiful boxing, right? Whoops. Throws that right hand. Throws the left hook to the body. Control him with his right hand, right? He stops him from ducking down, holding his head up, so he can throw that left hook again. Beautiful. Then control him with the lead hand. And then, boom, catches him with another right hand. And that's just beautiful setup of his shots. Boom. And notice how after he throws that shot, the next logical punch that Golovkin is going to throw after the left hook is going to be the right hand, right? But what does he do? He switches it up on him, figures out where Brook's head is going to be, controls him, right? Shows him the left hand again, right? And now Brook is already in the position that he would be in if he was slipping the right hand. So he's already out of position and just kind of gets stuck there and just whacked with the right hand. And that's one of the most, like, the beautiful things about those feints and those probes is you get your opponent to commit to his defensive posture by rotating and switching his weight, and that way that allows you to land your big punches. And this is something that, you know, seemingly novice fighter like Liam Smith was able to do against Canelo when he would get Canelo on the ropes, is use those probes, use those fake punches, and get Canelo to commit to his defense and then catch him with shots. You know, Liam Smith obviously is not a very big puncher, you know, and Golovkin's way, in my opinion, way bigger than him. But he was still able to have a lot of success, even though he wasn't able to hurt Canelo. And Golovkin is, as you can see, he's way better at that than Liam Smith. But comes in, shoots that left hand, transfers his weight, fake right hand. Brook doesn't know what's coming, and he's so confused at this point. You know, the feints and the probes, especially when you're getting hit with big shots, controlling with the left hand, boom, and then just beautiful. So again, shoots that left hand. Now Brook knows the right hand is coming because when you train so many years in the gym, right? Someone throws a left hook every time. What do they throw after the left hook? They throw the right hand. So Brook starts getting under it. Golovkin controls him, right? Shows him the lead hand, gets him to commit to his defense, and then Golovkin is easily able to just throw his right hand and crack him with that right hand right there. Beautiful setup. And then again, I love this from Golovkin. He's trying to transition and traverse the ring and get away from him. So what does Golovkin do? He just throws a little tiny right hand out there and gets Brook to commit to trying to defend himself, right? He thinks real punches are coming, and he winds up getting stuck on the rope by this little probing right hand. Not even a real punch, you know, but Golovkin is able to just shove it out there and make Brook think punches are coming, so Brook thinks he has to defend himself. And he's able to swoop in and get him with that left hook. Ooh, and then sneaky right there, right? Ducks down like he's doing that, like the same little pattern, right? Where he ducks under a shot and shoots a jab, but he goes over the top and lands a big right hand. You know, able to hide his punch, right? Because Golovkin knows, he knows what little patterns he's shown you. He's aware of his patterns, and this is part of, this is where craft comes in, right? Fighting your kind of style of fight, and when you have the experience that Golovkin has doing it, because everyone fights Golovkin the same way for some reason. You know, they all let him lead. They all let him be the one that goes first. You know, if you notice, like sometimes Golovkin, like especially in rounds 1 and 2, right? Brook is able to use his athleticism to just start throwing punches wild, and you know, Golovkin kind of he like shells up, right? He puts his gloves up, he kind of crouches down, and kind of hopes nothing lands too solid. You know, he turns with the punches a little bit, but a lot of times they're still like grazing shots and making it through the gloves. Like there's that one that's the uppercut, right? Golovkin doesn't have as much experience moving backwards, right? So maybe that's one of Canelo's only courses of victory, right? Is to not let Golovkin do what he does best and move forward, because he knows where all the holes are. He knows what he's showing you. He knows what he needs to exploit. He knows what he needs. He knows what you're trying to exploit. And that's like the biggest part of it, right? He knows what you're going to do to combat his style, right? And that's why he's so good at catching the jab, right? Getting you to commit to your jab. And even though it doesn't work too many times in this fight against Brook, it might not even work one time. I don't know. But getting you to commit to your jab and then shooting your right hand over the top. You know, he caught Danny Jacobs with a beautiful right hand over the top when Danny Jacobs shot a jab off of his jab, right? He tried to control him with the jab and turn out, and Golovkin ducked under that the jab and then caught him with the right hand. You know, and a fighter that's so active using their jab to set their punches up like Canelo, I think Golovkin's going to have a lot of success with that right hand. And that's one of Golovkin's like biggest assets, is his ability to take away his opponent's jab. You know, he hasn't exactly done that against Brook. Brook has had like really great lateral movement and moving off the line, and that's something that, you know, I don't think Golovkin is as good at as well. But it'll be interesting to see like what adjustments and it'll be really interesting to see where Golovkin takes his camp. You know, it looks like he's working on a lot of counters, right? Like catch and counter style stuff in his training videos, which I would not recommend against Golovkin, because he's going to get caught in between his, you know, we'll talk about that later. Anyway, I already forgot what I said I was going to talk about later the first time, but this time I'll try to remember that. Anyway, ducks under the shot. Again, more probing. And then I love this from Golovkin, right? It looks sloppy, right? He shoots this right hand, and it's low, right? He times it, and he gets the angle on it really well. He knows what Brook is going to do. Brook is ducking under the shot. He's able to catch him that. But look at how he steps off the line, right? That's going to be something that if he uses that against Canelo, you know, that kind of style, even though he's kind of like overreaching with that punch, because he doesn't stay on the line, he doesn't have to pay for it. You know, it doesn't matter that his hands are down. It doesn't matter that he's not, quote unquote, defending himself, because of the fact that he's moving off the line so well. Good job from Golovkin here. Shoots that jab, immediately gets it on to Brook and hold him up, right? Land a right hand to the spine. You know, just, you know, fuck his orbital bone, fuck his spine. You know, just. No, I'm just kidding. That's really horrible that he's landing punches there, but that's not the point, you know. The point is that he used that tactic to set his punch up. So here he shoots that jab, and what does he do? Shifts in, ducks down a little bit, and throws the right hand. You know, it was a very obvious right hand, right? Brook knew it's coming. It's the same rhythm as all of his other ones, except that this time he's not actually using any defense with it, right? Look at the difference between where his gloves are. You know, he doesn't have his hands up. You know, you can tell that when he's coming in with his jab from this scene compared to the one in the first round or the beginning of the round where his gloves are really tight, his defense is really tight, that it's very purposeful, right? Anyway, shoots the right hand, misses, then controls him with the right hand again. So it looks like he's throwing a double right hand, and he gets Brook to duck down under it and then almost eat a body shot. But good probing from Golovkin. And this is why Canelo's going to have such a hard time countering against Golovkin, is that second shot, right, where he feints it out there and he just shoots it out there just a little bit, makes you think it's going to be a punch, right? Canelo might commit to a counter punch in that instance. He might commit to a defensive posture where he transitions his weight to another foot and then just walks into another punch. There are so many opportunities to fail if you don't read it correctly. And if it's not the same every single time, which with Golovkin it's not, because he doesn't always control you after the next shot. You don't know if it's going to be the left hook. You don't know if it's going to be a control. And he just varies it up so much. It makes picking up the timings and the rhythms of his offense very difficult. Again, shoots the right hand, then controls him with the right hand. But Brook not falling for that. Gets away. and doesn't stop and doesn't get stuck on the ropes again just because those little probes are coming. So good job from Brooke learning, fighting. You know, someone said it best. You know, Brooke's got fucking balls. You know, nothing here like landing super clean, and then again, right? Shuffles forward, ducks, gets Brooke to commit to ducking the right hand, and then walks into a right uppercut. Beautiful boxing from Golovkin. Great pattern recognition. And then after that, boom. Controlling him, staying right in center. And Brooke trying to slip shots, but because Golovkin's not committing to anything, he catches him rolling onto another shot. Very dangerous. You know, at this point, right, when Brooke's here, he needs to kind of body up with Golovkin and then use his right shoulder and press it into Golovkin's bicep, you know, and then body up with him and control him. Or he needs to stop and he needs to pivot out and take an angle off and move back. But because he doesn't do that, he kind of gets caught with a shot right there. Like, beautiful again. Controlling the distance, right? Just shooting the jab, and then he gets him to commit to blocking the right hand there, and then the body shot is open. You know, great stuff from Golovkin. I like how he turns it up in this round. Oh man, beautiful. And this is what I think another thing that Canelo's going to have a trouble with in his fight. When he shoots the jab like that, and then Golovkin is able to go over the top of it. Just beautiful. Just go over the top of it. And then control him with the right hand, right? He doesn't know if it's a right hand. He doesn't know if it's control. But he has to respect it because Golovkin's a big puncher. And he gets him to duck down right there into that left hand right there. Control his head. And that, you know, sometimes that's going to happen where he's controlling his head and, like, kind of catches him with the shot right there. But it's not intentionally dirty, I assure you, probably. Oh, man. And now he's just kind of unloading on Brooke. You know, I think Brooke's a little spent at this moment. Ooh, and I love that. So let's just look at this last little clip, right? Shoots the jab. Controls him with the second jab to get him to commit to his defense. He gets Brooke going where he wants him. Throws that right hand. It looks like Brooke still makes him miss, right? And then Brooke comes up, right? Beautiful defense. But Golovkin controls him with the right hand instead of just going right into a punch. And then comes with that left hook. Ooh. Misses wide with that right hand. And what does Golovkin do? Now this is beautiful. This is something that he hasn't even done for the majority of the fight, right? If you notice when he misses his punches, he'll take off an angle, he'll step off, right? Or he'll like throw another punch, like he'll be throwing a punch like kind of wide, like those left hooks that he threw really early in the fight. He would throw them kind of wide and then throw an extra hook, you know, trying to bait the counters. But what does he do here when he misses his right hand? He immediately gets his glove onto Brooke and controls him to stop him from throwing his own punches and set up his own offense off of Golovkin being out of position. Now, this is something that he doesn't really do during the course of this fight very much. And just look at how fast and seamless it is. Like, if you watch it in slow-mo, it looks like it takes forever, right? But it's almost immediate. And now this is another reason why I think that Canelo's going to have a really hard time counterpunching, is because after Golovkin misses, he's able to get his arms onto his opponent to stop them from countering, to stop them from advancing a superior position on him, right? And even though he doesn't use that tactic hardly at all during the course of this fight, it's a tactic he's shown very many times in his other fights, especially the fights when he's coming up, you know, and there's so much like seeming uncertainty around him and his learning his craft and whatever. But also when he's not worried about he's not worried about looking vulnerable so that he can get big fights, you know, because at this point in his career, he was one of the most avoided fighters in boxing, you know, and I think that this performance and then the performance against Jacobs gave Canelo maybe the confidence to kind of go ahead and fight him. And then after that, you know, the towel kind of gets tossed in, and that's the end of the fight. But I forgot both of those fucking things I said I was going to talk about at the end of the round, because like I said, I'm like a little high right now. But anyway, one is controlling the distance. So that's something that Canelo doesn't really do. You know, I think Mikey Garcia, and this is amazing because I've never seen Mikey Garcia do it, but I saw some highlights of him fighting Broner, and Mikey Garcia is starting to use those kinds of tactics. And I think he did it a lot against Broner, you know, where he just uses his lead hand and he's just constantly feeling it out there, and trying to get Broner out of position, right? And that's what I mean. You know, the same thing that McGregor was able to do against Mayweather, right? Use your lead hand, control the distance. Don't let them feint you. Don't let them probe you. Don't let them do those things because you already have that space occupied. You know, it's kind of like in the same vein, right? And this is a very simple analogy, right? If I have my right hand, or if I have my left hand up on my eyebrow, you're not going to throw a straight right hand to my temple, right? If I have my left hand up or my right hand up to my right eyebrow, right, and my glove is up, you're not going to throw a left hook, right? Because my glove is already there. I'm already blocking that shot, right? So your static defenses are the places basically that your opponents are not going to throw punches because you're already defending those areas. And in that same vein, when you're controlling the distance between you and your opponent with your glove, with your fist, right, your opponent's not going to put his face there, right, because your glove is already there. He's not going to move into a space that you're already, quote-unquote, punching into, right? So it creates a pause, and that's something that Golovkin did very well in the Danny Jacobs fight. Is control the distance. When Danny Jacobs would try to control the distance with his lead hand and probe it out there, Golovkin was able to stop him from doing that with by combating his control and touching his glove and taking a superior position and getting under his shot and throwing his own punches. He still knows how to set up his punches when his opponent is controlling the distance, and he knows how to stop you from setting up your punches by controlling the distance when he wants to. And another facet in this round, right? Just going back to this right hand, this is a very high-level technique that he uses, but he doesn't use it nearly the entire fight. You know, he turns it on, you know, like somebody said in the comments, he kind of turned it on in this round and kind of went, you know, kind of ham on Brook and started opening up on him. I think that the fight probably wouldn't have been stopped by his coach if his orbital bone wasn't messed up. That's my opinion, but they would have probably let it go, you know, the round or two, or however, if Brooke was able to make some adjustments. But Golovkin really did start turning up the offense and start using more probes, start using more control, right, when he would get him on the ropes. Rather than just throwing wild punches like he did the first 4 rounds, he would throw those punches and then follow them up with some control from the same hand so that he could stop Brooke from taking angles and pivoting out, right? He was able to push him off balance and stop him from taking defensive postures and getting off the line. He was able to stop him from getting off the line by controlling him. And that's something that he's always had the ability to do. And that's something that, you know, I should really rewatch the... I'll do that tomorrow, you know. While I'm trying to do the videos, I'm going to try to do the key to victory videos for Canelo. Like, I'll try to do 4 keys to victory. I might only get 3 for each fighter. But I'm going to rewatch the Lemieux fight. Some people have linked some clips to it, or some sites to it, so that I can watch it and talk more in depth about that kind of stuff. But there are a lot of reasons why Canelo's gonna have a rough time fighting Golovkin, because so many of Canelo's traps are based off of the jab, right? Shooting the jab to set up the left hook to the head and to the body, right? But just a leading left hook, right? A leading left hook off of the feint of the jab, but Golovkin likes to counter the jab, right? Catch the jab and shoot his own jab. Is Canelo going to still be able to feint that jab and then walk through Golovkin's jab? What about when he feints that jab and then tries to throw that left hook that he throws really wide and walks into the counter right hand instead? You know, they're also countering, right? So we've seen instances in this fight where where Brook would try to take angles and try to use his defense, right, to try to roll and slip and duck punches on the inside, but Golovkin would be able to feint and probe him and control him and make him enter those defensive postures at the wrong moments and then walk into punches. You know, it's very similar to how you counterpunch, right, because you're transitioning your weight in a very similar way when you slip and roll as you are when you throw punches. Right? If you slip a right hand to the outside, it's nearly the same motion as throwing a right hand, right? So whether he's slipping the right hand or he's throwing his own right hand as a counter, it's nearly the same motion. And we've seen Golovkin control him, right? We've seen him fake those shots so that the counters can come and he can punch in between or bait you into those counters with those probes. And we've also seen him just control you when he's out of position. You know, like that really, really wide right hand that he throws here. And he's able to do stuff like that right there. And he can do it with his left hand too. And, you know, it's something that was kind of missing earlier in the fight. And for the style, like I said, for the style that that Golovkin fought during the course of this fight, Brook did a very good job. You know, but I do think that Golovkin could have used tactics like this much earlier in the fight and made it not as good of a fight as it was. You know, I don't think he had to give Brook all the opportunities to be in the fight as he did. You know, and that's nothing against Brook. Brook is still a very good fighter, but when you don't have experience fighting fighters like this, and this is a very, like, you know, Eastern European style, right? Using the feints and the probes, because their amateur system is so much different than America's amateur system. Yeah, I don't know what Britain's amateur system is. I don't know. I have no idea. But they fight more of a pro style in the amateurs in those other countries, so they're able to develop these skills much faster than Americans, or than, you know, basically any other country. And all these tactics, I think that if Golovkin puts them together sooner in the fight, and is more comfortable using them, or, you know, doesn't try to make it a street fight, doesn't try to make it a close fight, I think that they're going to play really, really well for him against Canelo. In fact, I would go so far to say that Canelo's style is literally tailor-made for Golovkin. And I think that, yeah, that's what I think. I don't want to talk about my prediction. Actually, you know what it is. You know what it is. Golovkin's going to kill Canelo. He's going to fucking kill him. It's going to be such a fucking bad beatdown. It's not even going to be funny. But I'm going to still do some keys to victory. There are still some things I think that Canelo can do to make it a closer fight, and make it a good fight, you know. So I think that the emphasis is on Canelo to really bring the fight to Golovkin and use the high-level skills that he, you know, sometimes he shows, you know. We'll talk about it later. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. Do you think that, you know, Golovkin had all these skills and he was going easy on Brook? Or do you think that Brook's style was giving him problems and this and that? You know, let me know what you guys think in the comments. And then I'm going to do the keys to victory this weekend and stuff, and tell you what I find from, like, some film study from Lemieux and whatever. Anyway, thanks, guys.